Western media celebrates progress in Myanmar. It says even as the mobs loyal to Nobel laureate San, basically Suu Kyi, hacked to death scores of Rohingya refugees in a racist genocidal orgy of violence, the West has been of late showcasing what is called a newly open, independent, and free Myanmar, formerly Burma. The Los Angeles Times wrote a particularly absurd piece titled Myanmar Pivots Uneasily Away from China, where it states the recent pivot from China towards the West and a more open government came as a surprise to many outsiders. So it says here the president's government suspended 3.6 billion Chinese-built hydroelectric projects. So it says here the Times article is particularly deceitful on several fronts. First, such progress has not been underway for even a year, considering the level of repression we've been told exists in Myanmar. Nothing resembling a free, open, or independent nation could take shape in such a short time, even with the best intentions. Increasingly open public protests, as the LA Times calls them, are acceptable so long as they are targeting China's interests. Anti-Muslim mobs destroy mosques and burn homes in central Myanmar. The mobs have stormed a town in central Myanmar, destroying mosques and dozens of houses. It says it's escalating violence against the Muslims. According to witness, a group of 20 armed Buddhists ransacked a mosque in central city, about 80 kilometers from Maktila, hurling stones at the buildings and smashing its windows on Sunday night. So it says hundreds of Rohingyas Muslims are believed to have been killed and thousands displaced in attacks by Buddhist extremists. On the topic of Myanmar, Golden Triangle drug trade reaching highest levels in years. Deep in the lawless mountains of the Golden Triangle, sloping fields of illegal poppies have just been scraped dry for opium. It says it's a peak season for producing drugs here in Myanmar's nascent era of democratic change. The haul has gotten only bigger. So there you go, right? It's all part of business. Pretty scary this weekend hearing relatives say, yeah, I think we gotta start worried about North Korea now. So they're buying into the propaganda. You know, these are grown-ups. These are grown-ups. You know, they're not children, but sometimes you can't tell the difference. North Korea video shows defeat of United States troops. North Korea submitted yet another entry to its ongoing propaganda film festival. This time it's released a video that threatens an attack on U.S. forces using powerful weapons of mass destruction, depicts an invasion of Seoul in which 150,000 American citizens are taken hostage. Well, I don't know if that could even happen. They don't even have that many troops. I think they have like 5,000 or 15,000 there. The film was titled A Short 3-Day War opens with rockets firing into South Korea from the north, followed by thousands of North Korean troops crossing the border. So this is supposed to be very scary for Americans who have nothing to do with South Korea, only Western imperialist ambitions against China's economy, right? North Korea denounces use of national flag as grave provocative acts. So we're seeing all kinds of propaganda coming out. I think there was one that North Korea has some kind of big drug trade that's funding something, and just real ridiculous stuff coming out. But they, you know, it's like you see that. Remember this stuff. This is not the first time. Just of last year, North Korea denounces use of national flag as grave provocative act. Now remember, they just had B-52 nuclear capable bombers flying over Korea, antagonizing and provoking North Korea, which put them on alert, high alert. So North Korea denounced the use of its national flag as a target during the U.S. Basically U.S.-South Korean war games as a grave provocative act and vowed to strengthen its nuclear deterrent. They got to throw that at the end, of course. U.S. now obligated to fight if North Korea attacks the South. Countries sign mutual defense agreement, so it's official. If the North provokes the South, see, so there you go, right? That's the narrative playing out. Doesn't really matter, right? Like, so when there was that ship that was sunk, it later came out that those were old World War II sea mines, landmines in the sea. That's what they were, and it had nothing to do with North Korea. But it didn't really matter because in the current time, that's all they had to say. So it says here now, if North Korea provokes the South, the U.S. is now obligated to help South Korea. They announced it on Friday, signing a mutual defense agreement the two countries have been working on since the North fired on South Korean island in 2010. See how it's totally reversed? The deal requires the U.S. military to fight to defend the South Korea should the Korean peninsula become a war zone, and outlines a variety of potential North Korean moves along with allies' planned response. So they've already promised to aid the South against the nuclear threat, but the latest move requires Washington to also respond to low-level incidents. That's little false flags, like Gulf of Tonkin or something. Speaking of World War II, top American and British military staffs to meet for the first time since the 1940s. What is believed to be the first time since the 1940s, the entire British defense staff will be here March 25th to discuss long-range strategy and impact of budget cuts with their U.S. counterparts, according to the U.S. and British sources. This is part of integrating Europe and the United States, of course, with the U.K. We talked about the transatlantic partnership, So as austerity is happening, you'll see these new super trade agreements that will come up. And it'll basically, you won't even know it, that you're part of this transatlantic union, right? I was referring to the European Union collapsing. Well, that's because they're just going to combine it. Defense Ministry spokesman characterized the meeting as a private and declined further. So, and the U.S. spokesman for the Office of Secretary of Defense did not respond. So that's reminiscent of the combined chiefs of staff and British American military leaders joined forces during World War II, understating what capabilities will survive and won't is essential to long-term strategic planning, they say. Russia's secret police, the FSB, on permanent duty in foreign states. The Federal Security Service will be given a detachment of agents to be assigned to permanent duty in foreign states. Their task will not to protect Russian diplomats from spies, but to work with local intelligence agencies in the struggle against international crime. Says here Russia's basically their federal security force, twice as big as the Soviet KGB. The Russian law enforcement system is so strong that it will defend itself to the last bullet, he said, adding that the Russian federal security service is now twice as big as the Soviet KGB. Estonian army ruled by Knights Templar, an interesting article from Novosti, so don't know, it's probably just coming straight from intelligence, but several high-ranking military officers in the Baltic nation of Estonia have been exposed as members of the Knights Templar-style order. Reported this week, 27 members of the Estonian branch of the Ordo Supremus Militaris Templari, whatever that is, include the chief of defense, as well as several retired military officers and the former defense officials. The order drew attention to the Estonian Security Agency in 2011 when Norwegian mass killer Anders Breivik claimed to be a Knights Templar and was known to have visited Estonia. The Estonian Templars keep low profile and describe themselves as Christian military officers who uphold the Christian world outlook. So it's kind of like similar with their new pope, I guess. Kind of like the God's Marines. Gussifer emails link Tony Blair to top secret Bohemian Grove gathering. Attending the elusive Bohemian Grove retreat should be priority for former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. News Corp executive Andrew Knight allegedly writes in emails to U.S. General Colin Powell obtained by RT. So I guess he's a mysterious computer hacker. This Gussifer supplied a bunch of emails with correspondence. So again, former Secretary of State Powell at this time discourse dives into the topic rarely discussed, the annual summer retreat at California's Bohemian Grove. You can go there and check it out. Links will be posted. Vladimir Putin, Faux, exiled Russian oligarch found dead in UK home. Investigators are searching the London area home where the body of former Russian oligarch Boris Berezovsky was found for possible chemical, radiological, or biological evidence. Circumstances surrounding the death of this individual, one of the most politically influential of Russia's oligarchs until a bitter falling out with the Kremlin, were not immediately known, and authorities in the UK said it was being investigated. His death is currently being treated as unexplained, and a full inquiry is underway. I think the recent news was that, death consistent with hanging, says British police. That's the latest. Venezuela suspends communications with U.S. Top diplomat ahead of elections. The Venezuela government has cut off lines and communications with the top U.S. diplomat ahead of the country's upcoming presidential election, which will be held on April 14th to replace Hugo Chavez. They say it makes no sense to continue wasting time as far as relationship with the United States. Venezuela leader warns of sabotage plans. Said they're planning to sabotage the country's power grid and interrupt food distribution ahead of the elections. They come amid growing concerns about sporadic shortages of some basic foods and occasional power outages in several regions of Venezuela. Rio police, I guess that's what, Rio de Janeiro police evict Amazon natives from World Cup site. They evicted 24 Amazon natives on Friday in an old Indian museum that will be demolished to clear areas adjacent to Brazil's legendary Maracana Soccer Stadium, the main venue for next year's World Cup. The Indians from different Amazon tribes have been living on the grounds of Rio de Janeiro Museum since 2006 and were resisting its demolition, which caused further delays to the overhaul of the stadium's complex. And we're going to switch gears here for the last 5 minutes. Serbu Firearms refuses to sell 50 caliber sniper rifles to NYPD. The manufacturer of bolt-action and semi-automatic 50 caliber sniper rifles are refusing to sell their wares to the NYPD. The reason, of course, is that owing to unfair gun laws, they will not support law enforcement in New York. And this is what's happening. You're seeing that. Police departments are actually getting these assault weapons and semi-automatic assault weapons and sniper rifles and militarizing themselves, and yet at the same time they're asking the American people to just say, give up your guns, just give up your guns, be peaceful, right? Don't mind us, don't mind us. I mean, they just put in another order. The Department of Homeland Security just put in another order, 360,000 rounds of hollow point rounds. I mean, why would you not pay attention to that? Everything that they're doing, all the stuff that they're stockpiling and preparing for. New Yorkers now being given $500 rewards if they report gun ownership and law enforcement. I already covered this. I just thought I'd throw it in there. So it says like New York is the new North Korea now or something. So that's why I thought it'd be good to segue into this, because if you live in New York, man, you should try to get the hell out of there if you can. Military-style drones will patrol New York City, says Bloomberg. Like it or not, the eye in the sky will soon be following your every move, according to Bloomberg. You can't keep the tides from coming in, says the mayor. And he says, we're going to have more visibility and less privacy. I just don't see how you could stop that. See, that's very democratic. They already have cameras mounted at strategic locations around the city, and there's no reason why the mayor's reckoning that they would have attached to light poles. It's scary. What's the difference if a drone is up in the air or on a building? I mean, intellectually, I have trouble making the distinction, and you're going to have to face recognition software. People are working on that. So the mayor put the time frame for an all-seeing society at about 5 years. We estimated there will be cameras in every place, like Britain, right? And of course, that's engineer consent. This isn't coming from the ground up, people begging for this. This is coming from the top down. New York Police Department brandishes the LRAD, long-range acoustical device, right? So groups protesting police brutality stage a rally at a vigil site on Sunday afternoon, followed by a march, says here, that went through the East Flatbush and 67th Precinct. Throughout the march, the 200 or so demonstrators were accompanied by an astounding number of police, one of whom brandished a megaphone designed as a non-lethal deterrent. At times, police appeared to outnumber protesters by 3 or 4 to 1. One protester was detained after stepping off the sidewalk, but an NYPD spokesman could not confirm that any arrests were made. New Yorker faces 3 years in prison for defending his home. He should have let himself be robbed and killed, they say. The second responders would have cleaned up the crime scene in 1 hour before heading to Dunkin' Donuts. He's lucky he wasn't caught with an illegal 32-ounce Coke. Bloomberg would really throw the book at him. So a Manhattan millionaire faces 3 years in jail for an unlicensed gun on a burglar inside his home. The intruder came into his home in January, threatened an intruder with a 40 cal 6-hour. Man fled and called the police. After showing the cops the footage from his home surveillance cameras, they arrested him under suspicions of owning a lethal firearm. High-tech NYPD unit tracks criminals through Facebook and Instagram photos. Socializing online is landing criminals in custody, and police are searching for suspects' photos on Instagram and Facebook, then running them through the NYPD's new facial recognition unit. Well, I thought that was coming. That's not here already, is it? To put a face to the name. DNA info New York has learned. So, futuristic technology, yet it's already here. So let's talk about it as if it's sci-fi still. Jim Carrey's anti-gun music video, Charlton Heston had an itty-bitty gland, he says. He mocks the gun enthusiast for his remarks about prying his guns from his cold, dead hands, saying that he probably had an itty-bitty gland. I guess he said anyone who would run out to buy an assault rifle after the Newton massacre has very little left in their body or still worth protecting. Welcome to the wondrous world of government's paranoid snitch culture. Manhunt launched for man in ski mask carrying assault rifle turns out to be a man in a turtleneck holding an umbrella. Turned into a citywide multi-jurisdictional manhunt. Says here witnesses thought he had an assault rifle. 3 schools were locked down. Pennsylvania sheriff threatened reporter. They've arrested a county sheriff on charges he threatened to cut off the hands of a political campaign worker and pulled out a gun and threatened to shoot the newspaper reporter. Thank you.